Hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. This is the summer version, the outdoor version, where we take the bar outside and enjoy the nice weather. So on the back deck here, and I've got my little to-do list, things to talk about. So full disclosure, I'm going to be guided along by some notes that I made here. I mentioned this before, but it always makes me smile, and I think about my mom in the latter part of her life a few years ago, and she and I would be on the phone. I'd call her up and say, "Hi, Mom, how are you doing?" And she'd go, "Great." And then she would have her list of things that she'd written down that she wanted to cover off. And I totally get it. There's something about creating a list and being able to take stuff out of your head and no longer looping about it and have it on a list that you could cover off. And then the satisfaction of covering those things and crossing them off your list. My father was obsessive about this thing. He would literally have a 50-item to-do list every day, and it would start with brush his teeth and comb his hair. So he obviously enjoyed removing items from his list, crossing them off, as it were. So we just came out of a really big day and evening yesterday, whereby there's some people doing some major cutting down of plants next door, where we had a World Cup here in Vancouver. So we're one of the host cities here in North America. I think we've got 7 matches in total, and the first Canadian game with Canada on the ticket, and we were playing Qatar. And any of you who know anything about soccer, and I know about as little as anyone could, Canada had never won a World Cup match. I think we'd only scored 1 goal in the last World Cup in Qatar, and this was our second game. We scored 1 in a draw with Bosnia Herzegovina, and here we were yesterday playing Qatar in Vancouver. So a lot of excitement, 52,000 fans at BC Place, and we won 6-0, and the place just went crazy. Vancouver went crazy, lots of celebrations, and it's always nice, Funny thing is, I don't know if any of you are in cities that have been host cities for Olympics, World Cup, that kind of stuff. What's gone on here in Vancouver, and it dates back to certainly the 2010 Olympics, is that there's a lot of complaining, and I'm in this group, where it's like it costs a lot of money. That money could be put towards, social programs or better use. And people lament that, or some people lament that we're hosting these events. And then once it starts up, the city gets caught up in it, which is fantastic, and gets really enthusiastic. And they turn out to be really great. The 2010 Olympics was fabulous. I mean, there were some good results for Canada, and the so-called golden goal by Sidney Crosby, and winning the gold, but also just people from all around the world, and everybody celebrating competition and community and things like that, and a lot of fun. Anyway, so I definitely joined the chorus of complaints of all this money for security and why are we hosting this. But once it starts, I'm fully on board, and so yeah, yesterday was very exciting, and we play Switzerland, I guess, next week, and we'll see where we go. Looks like we're likely to advance to the round of 32. But anyways, kind of fun to be in a host city that's all crackling with excitement. As it relates to that, I mentioned in my last video that we were looking at maybe Airbnb-ing our place during the World Cup. Ties back into what I was saying earlier. It was kind of like, we don't need to be here for this, and maybe we can make some good money doing it. Packed up all my records, as I mentioned last time. And one of the interesting things that has been reported on here in Vancouver, and I think Toronto, is that for those of us that were hoping to rent out our places, and admittedly putting it at a bit of a premium so you could leave and then go somewhere else and help offset the cost of a holiday somewhere. And the demand is way below the supply. So lots of homes that are not being Airbnb'd, and ours is one of them. So nary even an inquiry. So we looked at setting it at a price that seemed to be kind of market value for what we were offering, and nothing. And there have been many other people and stories written in the newspapers about the unexpected lack of interest or lack of demand for Airbnb. So we're fine with that. I talked in my last video, maybe we'll go to Peru, maybe we'll go to Ireland. Well, it looks like we're going to Nelson, BC. And we love Nelson, BC, so that's not exactly a hardship, but it's still possible that the week that we're in Nelson that maybe somebody will look to rent the place out, but I think it's unlikely. And so then I'll pull all my records back onto the shelves, and it's been really weird not having them. They're all sitting in boxes, and it's kind of changed the way I've listened to music. Because I don't have access to my library all alphabetized, and when I think I want to listen to something, then I can just access it so easily. Now I've got my pile in front of my record player, which has got a lot of the newer stuff that I've got. I have gone into some of the boxes to pull out things, but quite frankly, it's mostly upstairs and out of the way and hard to get at, so I just avoid that. So it's kind of changed the way I've listened to things, and I've been listening to CDs a little more because I've left some of those out and been more accessible. And I'm going to share one CD and one artist that I've just been reminded of how much I love her music, everything that she is about, and that is Bjork. If you were to look up quirky in the dictionary, I think there'd be a picture of Bjork there. This is the record that I've been listening to, Vespertine, and you'll note the swan there. I don't know if you remember, but there was some kind of awards ceremony, and she wore a bizarre swan dress. It almost looked like a dead swan across her body. And she's an easy person to kind of I guess mock or whatever, because she is so unique and so special, and she is not boring. And so anyways, I put this on the other night, and I had forgotten how fantastic she is. Like, this record has got some of the most fantastic string arrangements, choir arrangements, music box in the background, just basically the arrangement. There's lots of like crackles and forget what you sort of call that, sort of electronic glitch sounds, but it's not dominant, and it doesn't take away from the beauty of the music. And beauty is what this record is all about. There is just so much beauty in the melody, in the songwriting, in the arrangements. And amazingly, I'll give you a couple tracks to listen to if you don't, or remind you of. Hidden Place, which is the first song, and then Unison, which is the last song. Those two both just staggering arrangements. There's a guy, orchestration's done by Vince Mendoza. Choir arrangement, Bjork is involved in it, along with Vince Mendoza. Bjork produces this record, or most, if not all, of this record. The complexity, the challenge of being able to create a complex piece of music that does not sound complex when you really listen to it and you realize there's a heck of a lot going on there, but it is not a statement of complexity, but rather the work that goes into creating the beauty of all of these component pieces to create something really, really special. She is really a treasure. I just think Bjork is fantastic, and I had forgotten how incredibly accessible her music can be, and the beauty of her music. So Vespertine, Bjork, I think in many ways listening to this on CD is a great way to listen to it. Of course, the benefit of a CD is that you're able to listen to the whole piece, right? You can go from beginning to end. And even though this is a little bit sacrilegious, if there's a track that you really are not super keen on comes on, or if you feel like it breaks the flow, you can fast forward it. You don't need to do that with this. This one is, as I say, a beauty and of a piece. So that's a little tribute there. A couple other pieces of music and things that I got recently that have not been boxed up yet. One of them is a really big fan recently of Jeff Parker. I've talked about him a little bit, and he and Flea talked about this record, which is Miles Davis, Get Up With It. This is a record that I think was not originally released. It's a Tio Macero record, and it's a lot of noodling, a lot of sort of studio noodling. Some of it reminds me a little bit of a more experimental version of In a Silent Way. But the first track, it's a whole side. He loved him madly. The first sort of half, my friend Rob mentioned this, and I would agree with him. Got to move out of this excessive sun. Us Pacific Northwesters, we need to avoid the sun. We're all pale-faced. Yeah, as my friend Rob said, he loved him madly. The first half of this it seems just kind of like weird, dull noodling, and then it starts to really kind of take off. Maybe take off's the wrong word, but it really becomes quite something special. 30 minutes aside. I didn't know you could do a 30 minutes aside. That doesn't feel like there's any groove cramming from when I listen to this on the turntable. It's the sound is really good, but again, jump into the 15-minute mark of the track. He loved him madly. Some really interesting experimental stuff, and again, part of the rabbit hole that I've gone down thanks to my recent discovery of Jeff Parker and Fortet and things like that. Another one I got, which I think is perfect for the season, they just released an expanded version, a triple LP, Café Bleu. This is the first record from the Style Council. You know, I love this too, these photos, blurry photos, they're sort of like paparazzi style photos with the cafe culture and stuff like that. Reminds me of, I've been listening to a lot of Dylan lately, and just looking at, Blonde on Blonde and that blurry cover, and why is it blurry, but it's become so iconic that you don't even think about it. Back to Style Council. So always interesting when you think about what a different sound the Style Council was from the Jam. That said, the Jam's early stuff, right? Their early punky stuff, all the all mod cons and In the City and things like that. Much more, I guess, kind of early Who sound and mod sound. Well, that whole mod sound, of course, for all of us who know Quadrophenia and everything, was kind of, in part, there was a focus on a lot of the music of American black soul music, right? Everything from, the Shirelles to the Chiffons to all that kind of soul music. That was a great love of music and at the dance clubs that mods would go to. Well, the Jam were also, their soul roots would show quite often with songs like, what was it? Heat Wave. I think that was off of Setting Suns. Later, the last single that they did was Beat Surrender, and the sort of the double 7-inch that I have somewhere in a box. I looked for it so I could show you guys. Don't have it. They cover Curtis Mayfield's Move On Up and do a great version of that. So really the leap from the Jam to the Style Council wasn't massive. McTalbot, Paul Weller. To me, this is like a quintessential summer listen. So this release, for those of you who know, so I don't think this has been released in North America, so it's come in as an import. And 3 records. First one there is kind of like demos and outtakes. The second one is the original album. I don't even know if it's been remastered, not that it really needs to be. And then, again, some more B-sides, demos, outtakes, and alternate versions. Style Council had some really good singles. So I think in the States, Café Bleu was called My Ever-Changing Moods, and I don't know if it was the same track listing. Well, I guess it had My Ever-Changing Moods on it, and the original album had My Ever-Changing Moods, the single as well. But anyways, Long Hot Summer, there was like a long version of that, a 12-inch version of that. Solid Bond in Your Heart, which was not on the regular record. Anyways, this is, I was very happy to get this. I've got the Café Bleu, and I've got many of their singles, but I like it when you kind of package together something. Ooh, this is a bit unwieldy. Ooh, and the light's coming across. Anyways, Style Council, Café Bleu. For a triple record set, I think it was like $70. I think that's pretty good. That's in Canadian, so. And finally, to close off, I always like to talk about books that I'm reading, and we'll move over even a little bit more. There's the barbecue. Barbecue loves to be in the video. Always feels like he doesn't get the attention he deserves. And so a book that I picked up that I haven't started reading yet, but I'm looking forward to, is Melissa Auf de Mars, Even the Good Girls Will Cry, bassist for Smashing Pumpkins, bassist for Hole. So we'll get into those two bands and things that went on with them. I've heard her interviewed once or twice. I think she was on Q with Tom Power, which is our CBC kind of news and entertainment culture sort of magazine, radio show. Magazine as in kind of a podcast or a radio show. And she's very articulate. Her father was Nick Oftemar, and he was a journalist, wrote out of Montreal. She grew up in Montreal, wrote for the Montreal Gazette. And she's very articulate, and she really talks about how she got into playing bass and how she ended up in Smashing Pumpkins, met Billy Corgan. Again, I'm not a Smashing Pumpkins fan. I say again because I enjoy a good autobiography or biography, and just like I like music documentaries, I don't have to love the band, you know. The Metallica, you know, Some Kind of Monster was fantastic. And then bands that I love, like Wilco, I'm Trying to Break Your Heart, or a few other documentaries that they've had. I just love them. I love them. There's something about the band dynamics, how difficult it is to all be together, traveling in a van, just the difficulties, the challenges, and then you've got all of the egos about the songwriting and live performances, and what happens with the band as they either become famous or don't reach that, or they become famous and then they lose that stardom. You know, how does the band deal with it? I find that really interesting. So I think this is going to be a really good read. I'll check back in with you after I've read it, but I'm looking forward to this immensely. Even the Good Girls Will Cry. Melissa Oftemar, bass player from Hole and Smashing Pumpkins. That's all for now. Carpe diem, motherfuckers. Hope you have a good summer. Bye-bye.